later in the program, Vaisheshik Maharaj will be joining. He's running a little late, but you can expect to hear more from his presentation that he had stopped off at last week. But in the meantime, we'll continue as our program as regularly scheduled. Sorry. Before we start, we can, as usual, begin with a prayer. And the way that works is someone can nominate another person to make a prayer, and if that's seconded, we can have a nice nominate or a nice prayer from that person. So would anyone like to make a nomination? I'll put the links and some other the format in the chat. All right, we got our nominate Akshaj, and we have Ritvik and Manya and Arya as well. All right. Since we got Akshaj first. All right, we got second for Akshaj from Manya. Thank you. All right, Akshaj, would you like to take it away? Put the prayer there. Oh, yeah, Akshaj here. Oh, right. Akshaj, would you like to make a prayer?
Yes, Adishna.
Hare Krishna.
Uh, what's the format again?
Oh, sorry, I put in the chat. Put it again.
My dear Radha Ji, if you please so desire, please help improve my taste in chanting. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Akshaj. All right, and with that, we'll start with our first item of the program, which is Chad. And I think we're starting a new chapter today, chapter 11 from the Bhagavad Gita. So, Rajas, if you were able to pull it up in the slides.
Hi, Krishna, everyone. So this week, or not this week, the next few weeks, it'll be chapter 11. And so since this is a new chapter, I'll bring the Sanskrit, and all of you can feel free to chant with me behind your muted mics. And then we'll do the translations together. So it's just the first half. I believe, is that the first 26? Shaitanaya?
Yeah,
Is that
it
correct?
should be 26 or 27, but yeah, there's 55 verses. I think they put 1 to 22 in the official
Okay.
chat, but
All right. We'll just go halfway then, maybe.
yeah, 27.
Arjuna Uvacha Maz Anugrahaya Paramam Guhyam Adhyatma Samgitam Yatvayoktam Vachastena Mohoyam Vigato Mama Bhavapyayo Hi Bhutanam Shruto Vistarasho Maya Tvatta Kamalapatraksha Mahatmyam Api Chavyayam Evam etan yathatvam atmanam parameshvara drashtum ichhami te rupam aishwaram purushottama manyase yadi tachakyam maya drashtum iti prabho yogeshvara tato me tvam darshayatmanam avyayam. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Pashya me partharupani Shatashotha sahasrasha Nana vidhani divyani Nana varna kritini cha Pashyadityan vasun rudran Ashwino marutastatha Bahun adrishta purvani Pasyascharya bharata Ihaikastham jagatkritsnam pashyadya sacharacharam mama dehe gudakesha yachanyad drashtumicchasi natu mam sakyashe drashtum anenaiva svachakshusha divyam dadami te chakshu pashyame yogamaishwaram. Sanjaya Uvacha Evam Uktva Tato Rajan महायोगेश्वरो हरि दर्शयाम आस पार्थाय परमं रूपमैश्वरम् अनेकवक्त्रनयनम् अनेकाद्भुतदर्शनम् अनेकदिव्याभरणम् दिव्यानेकोद्यतयायुधम् दिव्यमाल्याम्बरधरम् दिव्यगन्धानुलेपनम् सर्वाश्चर्यमयं देवम् अनन्तं विश्वतोमुखम् दिवि सूर्यसहस्रस्य भवेद्युगपद् उत्थिता यदि भाससदृशी सा स्याद् भासस्तस्य महात्मनः तत्रैकस्थं जगत्कृत्स्नं प्रविभक्तम् अनेकधा अपश्यद्देवदेवस्य शरीरे पाण्डवस्तदा ततः स विस्मयाविष्टो हृष्टरोमा धनञ्जय प्रणम्य शिरसा देवं कृताञ्जलिरभाषत अर्जुन उवाच पश्यामि देवांस्तव देवदेहे सर्वांस्तथा भूतविशेषसङ्घान् ब्रह्माणमीशं कमलासनस्थं ऋषींश्च सर्वान् उरगांश्च दिव्यान् अनेकबाहूदरवक्त्रनेत्रं पश्यामि त्वां सर्वतोऽनन्तरूपम् नान्तं न मध्यं न पुनस्तवादिं पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप किरीटिनं गदिनं चक्रिणं च तेजोराशिं सर्वतो दीप्तिमन्तम् पश्यामि त्वां दुर्निरीक्ष्यं समन्ताद् दीप्तानलार्कद्युतिमप्रमेयम् त्वमक्षरं परमं वेदितव्यं त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानम् त्वम् अव्ययः शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे अनादिमध्यान्तमनन्तवीर्यम् अनन्तबाहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रम् पश्यामि त्वां दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदां तपन्तम् द्वावा पृथिव्योरिदमन्तरं हि व्याप्तं त्वयैकेन दिशश्च सर्वा दृष्ट्वाद्भुतं रूपमुग्रं तवेदं लोकत्रयं प्रव्यथितं महात्मन् अमीहि त्वां सूरसङ्घा विशन्ति केचिद्भीता प्राञ्जलयो गृह्णन्ति स्वस्तीत्युक्त्वा महर्षि सिद्धिसङ्घा स्तुवन्ति त्वां स्तुतिभिः पुष्कलाभिः रुद्रादित्या वसवो ये च साध्यात् विश्वेश्विनौ मरुतश्चोष्मपाश्च गन्धर्वयक्षासुरसिद्धसङ्घा वीक्षन्ते त्वां विस्मितश्चैव सर्वे रूपं महत्ते बहुवक्त्रनेत्रं महाबाहो बहुबाहुरूपादं बहूदरं बहुदंष्ट्राकरालं दृष्ट्वा लोका प्रव्यथितास्तथाहम् नभस्पृशं दीप्तमनेकवर्णं व्यात्ताननं दीप्तविशालनेत्रं दृष्ट्वा हि त्वां प्रव्यथितान्तरात्मा धृतिं न विन्दामि शमं च विष्णो दंष्ट्राकरालानि च ते मुखानि दृष्ट्वैव कालानलसन्निभानि दिशो न जाने न लभे च शर्मा प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास अमी च त्वां धृतराष्ट्रस्य पुत्रा सर्वे सहैवावनिपालसङ्घे भीष्मद्रोणसूतपुत्रस्तथासौ सहास्मदीयैरपि योधमुख्यै वक्त्राणि ते त्वरमाना विशन्ति दंष्ट्राकरालानि भयानकानि केचिद्विलग्ना दशनान्तरेषु सन्दृश्यन्ते चूर्णितेरुत्तमाङ्गैः. Now for the translations, we'll all read four each. So feel free to raise your hand if you would like to read. There'll be more opportunity later, so don't feel disappointed if you don't make it. We'll get started with Ritwik.
Arjuna said, "By my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. O lotus-eyed one, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity, and have realized your inexhaustible glories. O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you are here before me, in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see you how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. If you think that I am able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self."
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, O son of Rita, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of very divine and multicolored forms. O best of the Bharata, see here all the different manifestations of Aditya, Vasus, Rudras, Aswini, Kumaras, and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things that which no one has ever seen or heard of before. O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see, and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything, moving and non-moving, is here completely in one place. But you cannot see me with your present eyes, therefore I give you the divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence." Sanjaya said, "O king, having spoken thus, the supreme lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjuna.
Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, all expanding. If hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once in the sky, their radiance might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Person in that universal form. At that time, Arjuna could see in the universal form of the Lord the unlimited expansion of the universe, situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands. Then, bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to offer obeisance and then, with folded hands, began to pray to the Supreme Lord.
Rian.
Arjuna said, "My dear Lord Krishna, I see assembled in your body all the demigods and various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Shiva and Lord Shiva and all of the sages and divine serpents. O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see your body in many, many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes expanded everywhere without limit. I see in you no end, no middle, and no beginning. Your form is difficult to see because of its glaring effulgence spreading on all sides like blazing fire or the immeasurable radiance of the sun. Yet I see this glowing form everywhere, adorned with various crowns, clubs, and discs. You are the supreme primal objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You are inexhaustible, and you are the oldest. You are the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion."
Tarani Radha.
You are without origin, middle, or end. Your glory is unlimited. You have numberless arms, and the sun and moon are your eyes. I see you with blazing fire coming forth from your mouth, burning this entire universe by your own radiance. Although you are one, you spread throughout the sky and the planets and all space between. O Great One, seeing this wondrous and terrible form, all the planetary systems are perturbed. All the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and entering into you. Some of them, very much afraid, are offering prayers with folded hands. Hosts of great sages and perfected beings, crying, "All peace," are praying to you by singing the Vedic hymns. All the various manifesta- all the various of all the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadhyas, the Vishvedevas, the two Ashvis, the Maruts, the forefathers, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Asuras, and the perfected demigods are beholding you in wonder.
O mighty armed one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form. With its many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies, and your many terrible teeth. And as they are disturbed, so am I. O all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with your many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouths, and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance seeing thus your blazing death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions I am bewildered. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and our chief soldiers also are rushing into your fearful mouths, and some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth.
Thank you everyone for participating in reading the translations. Just a little quiz before we move on. Does anyone want to share maybe what they remember from what's inside, what Arjuna saw in Krishna in his form? You can put it in the chat or you can raise your hand and just speak. Go ahead, Arya.
I learned that Arjuna was very scared because Krishna's universal form was like he had many teeth, he had many heads, and all the souls were going inside his mouth. So Arjuna was really scared of that.
Oh, thank you, Arya, for sharing that. We got 3. Let's see how many we can do as a group together. Anything else that you remember? Ritvik, go ahead.
I
Or
was
yeah.
from my shloka when I heard that Arjuna was asking Krishna to make his own decision, and if Krishna wanted to show him his universal form, he'd be fine with it. But if Krishna didn't want to show it, he'd be fine either way because he already got the darshan of Krishna in this group.
Thank you, Ritvik. That's a very important realization. Mayuri?
I remember that there was fire coming out of the mouths.
Fire coming out of the mouth. That's right. Anything else? Anyone remembers? Tarni Radhe in the chat. Arjuna was terrified and bewildered because it was so much to take in. Krishna's supreme form was extremely effulgent, and he could see souls entering and exiting his body, including the souls of people from the war. That's right. Thank you everyone for recollecting that. And I think Navya was next in line to read. So in fact, we're going to ask you to pick a verse for us to read the purport of.
The 5th one.
Number 5. Okay. Will it be okay to read it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can start with the Sanskrit translation. Sorry, we'll do the translation The synonyms as well, translation, purport. It's all pretty short.
Shri
Go
Bhagavan
ahead.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Pashyame Partharupani Shashtotha Sahasrara Nana Vidhani Divyani Nana Varna Kritini Cha. Shri Bhagavanuvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Pashya, just see, me, my, me, my, Partha, O son of Pritha, Rupani, forms, Satasa, hundreds, Atha, also, Sahasra, thousands, Nana Vidhani, variegated, Divyani, divine, Nana, variegated, Varna, colors, Akritini, forms, Cha, also. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of varied, divine, and multicolored forms. Purport. Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in his universal form, which, although a transcendental form, is just manifested for the cosmic manifestation, and therefore subject to the temporary time of this material universe. As the material universe is manifested and not manifested, similarly, this universal form of Krishna is manifested and non-manifested. It is not eternally situated in the spiritual sky like Krishna's other forms. As far as the devotee is concerned, he is not eager to see the universal form. But Arjuna wanted to see Krishna in this way. Krishna reveals this form. The universal form is not possible to be seen by any ordinary man. Krishna must give one the power to see it.
Thank you, Navya. Do you want to share a little bit about this verse and maybe some commentary on how we can extend this conversation and perhaps also how it relates to the reflections that we just had?
I think this purport just kind of elaborates and it explains how that the universal form isn't one of Krishna's like natural roots, I guess. So most people can't see it, and the devotees don't even want to see it. And this kind of explains why Arjun was so scared of the form, because it wasn't the way he was used to seeing Krishna.
Thank you, Navya. Does anyone else want to continue that discussion, discussing this verse or this the plot of this chapter? Arya, go ahead.
I just had a question. What did they mean by not manifested and manifested?
To answer that question, we can take a look at the definition of manifested. So manifest is a verb, means to show, exhibit, demonstrate, betray, display, present, reveal, indicate, make, so on. And so to manifest in this case is the form is manifest is when we can see it. And when it's unmanifest, we're not able to see it. And so that's what it means. It doesn't mean that Krishna, like dies as someone might die in this world, but rather he goes away from our vision. And so he becomes unmanifest.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that, Arya. Arav?
Hare Krishna. So I was just seeing this verse, and then just like that point that Arya and you had made before, like this, it says in the verse, is a manifestation for the cosmic manifestation, and therefore it's subject to temporary time of this material nature. So it won't be in any of the prakoshas that the devotees will want to go in Vaikuntha or Vrindavan. So the devotees would like to see Krishna as Krishna, not as the universal form.
Thank you, Arav. Yeah, this is I find this very interesting. Prabhupada makes it very clear of as to why the devotees are not very interested in this form. because it's a manifestation of the cosmos. Chaitanya Nitayanam?
Yeah, on that same point, devotees don't want to see it because they're also naturally inclined to seeing the spiritual form. And as this is the purport is saying, this universal form is pertaining to the material world. It's not something that you actually see in the spiritual world. And like see in further shastras, that like there's the five rasas where devotees have different interactions based on their just their natures, either as they want to see Krishna as a parent, as Arav said, they want to see Krishna in that form, but either as a parental figure or a friendly figure or a baby or even as a servant master nature. But with the universal form, you can't have any of those interactions really. It's just very superficial compared to those because you don't have any interaction. It's just something you look at and you're very bedazzled by, as Arjuna was able to get that spiritual vision and not be blinded by it. But otherwise, people were, when Krishna otherwise showed his universal form, people were blinded by it because there's no way you can actually interact with it. So that's another valuable aspect of having the spiritual form of Krishna being manifest. So, yeah.
Thank you for bringing up those points. Those are very nice. And it really relates to everything else. It ties it all together. Um, uh, Arni Radhe, was your hand up? Or is it now good? Now it's not anymore. Aname?
I just wanted to the things that Chaitanya Prabhu said and the Prabhu before him, talking about how the devotees they don't really care much about seeing the universal form, because they just want to see Krishna's spiritual form. Just on the same line, in the ninth chapter, this is just to expand the conversation. In the ninth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that he gives some knowledge that how he is superior to like the material modes and his relationship with living entities. And the people who understand that knowledge the best are the Mahatmas, who just worship Krishna like with pure devotion. But those who don't understand it perfectly, Krishna says that those people they worship Krishna through he says Bahuda Vishwatomakam. They worship him through the universal form. And so I mean, I think if you want, you could I think it's like 9:15 or something. The verse is the Krishna says there's the Mahatmas who worship him perfectly, and then he's like there's others. You know, when you say like others, like the main people are the Mahatmas, but there's like other people who are like not as good. Krishna says that Jnana Yajna Chapyanye Yajut I forgot the third line, but Ekatvena Prataktvena Bahuda Vishwatomakam. That those who don't understand Krishna perfectly, they worship him like Ekatvena, they try to merge into him, or Prataktvena, they try to worship him in like duality or diversity, meaning like they try to worship the demigods. And then they also try to worship him Vishwatomakam, like as the universal form. But the devotees who understand Krishna and the knowledge of Krishna perfectly, they worship him, you know, they're like the Mahatmas and they worship Krishna's form. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting to learn about the different ways of worshiping Krishna and depending on different levels of realization and understanding. Thank you, Aname, for bringing this verse. It's a very nice verse and also gives even more context into this discussion of Srila Prabhupada. Any final points? Arni Radha, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, I think I just wanted to add to like all the previous points that that like the devotees don't worship the universal form because it's difficult to like have a loving relationship. Obviously, it can be like love the Lord in that form in a way, I guess, but like you're always in awe. It's difficult to have an intimate, loving relationship with someone who's like so like bewildering. So that's why the devotees like they never want to see Krishna as universal form because obviously like it makes them feel so different than when someone has any of the other like any of the other rasas and they see Krishna as a child, as a friend, as a like as yeah, as a child, a friend. So like that's why I just wanted to like add how it's um like that's the reason why many devotees don't want to see his form like that.
That's a great observation, Taranirada. And I think as everyone else was mentioning in the chat, uh, how they saw unlimited, he saw unlimited galaxies, planets. There's no beginning and end, and he was terrified. You could see all the demigods emerging from it, and so it's such a like intense form. And it's, as you said, the cosmic manifestation. So it's you're not able to really have that personal relationship with him. But on that note, I was also thinking of something where Krishna revealed his form because Arjuna desired to do so. And so Arjuna is his devotee, and he wanted to fulfill his desire and reciprocate with him in the way that Arjuna wanted. And so that's another form of Krishna's kindness uh, and just capacity to reciprocate to anyone in any way. Arav, yes, go.
Hare Krishna. This what from reading the last chapter we see in chapter 10. Krishna says he is a lot of these things. He's out of the fish, he's the shark. Out of the Rudras, he is Shiva, and he's saying all these great things. I think that is just bringing up Arjuna's interest. He's like, what is who is he? He's seen him as his friend the whole time, and then now he's saying all these things, and then he knows Krishna would never lie to him. So he's just becoming more curious and more curious. And he's saying that's only a fraction of his glories. And then Arjuna is finally, I think what happens is he's finally so excited and he says, "Please show it to me." That's what I think I've gotten out of it, but I'm not sure about the truth in that.
Thank you, Arav, for providing that context. Yeah. When we read these chapters one after another like we have, because we just read chapter 10 before this, nice to build that context as we go through. All right, now we will move on to the next part. I believe, will that be you, Chaitanya Nitayanam?
Yeah, sure. We'll go into Prabhupada Lilamrita. And I think we're actually on chapter 14, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. All right. And yep, it's 3:40. So we'll have a little time. We'll have about 15 to 20 minutes. So we'll have each person read 3 paragraphs and see how far we get. So I'll start and then we'll carry on after. Chapter 14, Struggling Alone. I used to sit in the back and listen to his meetings silently. He was speaking all impersonal nonsense, and I kept my silence. Then one day he asked if I would like to speak, and I spoke about Krishna consciousness. I challenged that he was speaking manufactured philosophy and all nonsense from Shankaracharya. He tried to back out and said he was not speaking, Shankaracharya was speaking. I said, you are representing him. That is the same thing. He said, he then said to me, Swamiji, I like you very much, but you cannot speak here. But although our philosophies differed and he would not let me speak, he was kind and I was nice to him. Srila Prabhupada in conversation. Prabhupada knew no one in New York City, but he had a contact, Dr. Ramamurthy Mishra. He had written Dr. Mishra from Butler, enclosing the letter of introduction Paramanand Mehra had given him in Bombay. He had also phoned Dr. Mishra, who welcomed Prabhupada to join him in New York. At the Port Authority bus terminal, a student of Dr. Mishra's met him as he arrived from Philadelphia and escorted him directly to an Indian festival in the city. There, Prabhupada met Dr. Mishra as well as Ravi Shankar and his brother, the dancer Uday Shankar. Prabhupada then accompanied Dr. Mishra to his apartment at 33 Riverside Drive, beside the Hudson River. The apartment was on the 14th floor and had large windows overlooking the river. Dr. Mishra gave Prabhupada a room to himself. Dr. Mishra was a dramatic, showy personality given to flashing glances and making expressive gestures with his hands. He regularly used words like lovely and beautiful, presenting an artfully polished image of what a guru should be. He was what some New Yorkers referred to as an uptown Swami. Before coming to America, Dr. Mishra had been a Sanskrit scholar and guru, as well as a doctor. He had written a number of books, such as the Textbook of Yoga Psychology and Self-Analysis and Self-Knowledge, a work based on the teachings of a monistic philosopher Shankara. After he came to the United States, he continued with his medical profession, but as he began taking disciples, he gradually dropped his practice. Although a sannyasi, he did not wear the traditional saffron dhoti and kurta, but instead wore tailored Nehru jackets and white slacks. His complexion was dark, whereas Prabhupada's was golden. He had a thick, black hair. At 44, he was young enough to be Prabhupada's son. Dr. Mishra had been suffering from bad health when Srila Prabhupada came into his life, and Prabhupada's arrival seemed the perfect medicine. Mayuri, go ahead. Mayuri, I think.
Oh, I thought I unmuted.
Yeah.
Ramamurthy Mishra. His Holiness Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Goswamiji really knocked me down with his love. He was really an incarnation of love. My body had become a skeleton, and he really brought me back to life. His cooking, and especially his love and his devotion to Lord Krishna. I was lazy in the matter of cooking, but he would get up and have ready. Dr. Mishra appreciated that Prabhupada, cooking with the precision of a chemist, would prepare many dishes, and that he had a gusto for eating. Ramamurthy Mishra. It was not the bread he gave me prasadam. This was life, and he saved my life. At the time, I was not sure I would live, but his habit to eat on time, whether I was hungry or not, that I very much liked. He'd get up and say, "All right, this is Bhagavad Prasadam," and I would say, "All right." Joan Suval, an old student of Dr. Mishra's, often saw Srila Prabhupada and her teacher together at the Riverside Drive apartment. Joan Suval. I have a memory I have a memory of Swamiji as a child, in the sense of his being very innocent, a very simple person, very pure. The impression I have from Dr. Mishra is that he regarded Swamiji as a father figure who was kindly and good, but basically the words most often used referring to Swamiji were like a child, meaning that he was simple in a classical, beautiful sense. Dr. Mishra mentioned to me when I was first introduced to Swamiji that he was a very holy man, very religious, wrapped in God consciousness.
Swamiji was very sweet. I myself remember him as a very, very good man. Even the practical details of living in New York, which seemed to involve him very much, because he was a practical man and was looking for the best place to begin his work. I remember very well that he was always careful about washing his clothes out every night. I would come in and find a group of students in the area of Dr. Mishra's apartment, and in the bathroom would be hung Swamiji's orange robes. Srila Prabhupada would sometimes discuss with Dr. Mishra the aim of his visit to America, expressing that his spiritual master's vision of establishing Krishna consciousness in the West. He requested Dr. Mishra to help him, but Dr. Mishra would always refer to his own teaching work, which kept him very busy, and to his plans for leaving the country soon. After a few weeks, when it became inconvenient to maintain Prabhupada's apartment, Dr. Mishra shifted to his Hatha Yoga studio on the fifth floor of 108 West. 72nd Street, near Central Park. The large studio was located in the center of the building and included an office and adjoining private room where Prabhupada stayed. It had no windows. Philosophically, at complete odds with Prabhupada, Dr. Mishra accepted the absolute truth in the impersonal feature to be supreme. Prabhupada stressed that the supremacy of the personal feature, following the Vedic theistic philosophy that the most complete understanding of the absolute truth is impersonal. The Bhagavad Gita says that the personal Brahman is subordinate to the Bhagavan as an emanation from him, just as the sunshine is an emanation from the sun. This conclusion has been taught by the leading traditional acharyas of ancient India, Ramanuja and Madhva. Srila Prabhupada was in the disciplic succession of Madhva. Dr. Mishra, on the other hand, was followed Shankar, who taught that the impersonal presence of the absolute truth is all in all, and that the personality of God is ultimately illusion. Whereas Prabhupada's theistic philosophy accepted the individual spiritual self as the eternal servant of the supreme spiritual being. Dr. Mishra's views accepted the spiritual self as not the individual. Rather, his idea was that since each person has identical with God, the Supreme Brahman, there is no need to worship God outside oneself. As Dr. Mishra put it, everything is one. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada challenged, if each of us is actually the Supreme, then why is the Supreme suffering and struggling in the material world? Dr. Mishra would counter that the Supreme is only temporarily covered by illusion, and that through Hatha Yoga and meditation one would become enlightened, understanding it is all in the Supreme. It is all the Supreme. Prabhupada would again challenge, but that if the Supreme can be covered by illusion, then the illusion would be greater than God, greater than the Supreme. Prabhupada considered Dr. Mishra a Mayavadi because of his inadvertent acceptance that Maya, illusion, is greater than the absolute truth. For Srila Prabhupada, not only was the impersonal philosophy unpalatable, it was an insult to the personality of Godhead. According to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 7.249.11, unintelligent men who know me not think I have assumed this form and personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is changeless and supreme. Fools deride me when I appear in this human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Lord Chaitanya also strongly refuted the Mayavada philosophy. Everything about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is spiritual, including his body, opulence, and paraphernalia. Mayavada philosophy, however, covers his spiritual opulence and advocates the theory of impersonalism. Before coming to America, Srila Prabhupada had written in his Bhagavatam purports, the ambitious Mayavadi philosophers desired to merge into the existence of the Lord. This form of mukti, liberation, means that denying one's individual existence. In other words, it's kind of a spiritual suicide. It is absolutely opposed to the philosophy of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga offers immortality to the individual conditioned soul. If one follows the Mayavada philosophy, he misses his opportunity to become immortal after giving up the material. Could we scroll down? Material body. In the words of Lord Chaitanya, Mayavadi Krishna Aparadi. Mayavadi impersonalists are great offenders unto Lord Krishna. Thus, Lord Chaitanya had concluded that if one even hears the commentary of Shankara, one's entire spiritual life is spoiled. Dr. Mishra was content to align himself with the philosophy of Shankara and allow Prabhupada to stay with Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. But Srila Prabhupada pointed out that even Shankara accepted that the personality of Godhead, Krishna or Narayan, exists internally beyond the material world. Therefore, he is a transcendental person, Narayana Paro Vyaktat.
I mentioned that Prabhupada was temporarily dependent on the goodwill of his Mayavadi acquaintance with whom he regularly ate and conversed and from whom he accepted shelter. But what a great inconvenience it was! He had come to America to speak purely and boldly about Krishna, but he was being restricted. In Butler, he had been confined by his host's middle-class sensibilities. Now he was silenced in a different way. He was treated with kindness, but he was considered a threat. Dr. Mishra could not allow his students to hear the exclusive praise of Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Spending most of his time in his new room, Srila Prabhupada kept at his typing and translating. But when Dr. Mishra held his yoga classes, Prabhupada would sometimes come out and lead a kirtan or a lecture. Robert Nelson, one of Prabhupada's first youngest sympathizers in New York. I went to Dr. Mishra's service and Dr. Mishra talked. Swamiji was sitting on a bench. And then all of the students, Dr. Mishra stops the service and he gets a big smile and says, Swamiji will sing us a song. I think Dr. Mishra wouldn't let him speak. Somebody told me Dr. Mishra didn't want him to preach. Every morning, several hours before dawn, Prabhupada would rise, take his bath, and chant Hare Krishna on his beads, and work at his translating. While outside his closed-in windowless chamber, dawn came out Dawn came and the city awoke. He had no stove, so daily he had to walk the 7 blocks to the Riverside Drive apartment to cook. It would be a late morning when he would come out onto a busy street. He would walk north on Columbus Avenue amid the steady flow of pedestrians pausing at each intersection in the sweeping breeze from the river. Instead of the small town scenery of Butler, he passed through the rows of a 30-story office buildings on Columbus Avenue. At the street level where can you scroll down? At street level were shoes repair shops, candy stores, laundries, and conventional restaurants. Do I keep reading?
Yeah, you can read one more.
The upper stories held the professional suits of doctors, dentists, and lawyers. At 75th Street, he would turn west and walk through a neighborhood of brownstone apartments and then across Asmadam to Broadway, with its center is Island Park. The greenery here would come more accurately be described as blackery, since it was covered with a soot and city grime. Broadway displayed its produce shops and butcher shops, with their stands extending onto the sidewalk. An old man sat on benches in the thin strip of park between the northbound and southbound traffic. The last block on 75th before Riverside Drive held high-rise apartment buildings with doormen standing. 33 Riverside Drive also had a doorman.
Sometimes Prabhupada would walk in Riverside Park, still careful for the condition of his heart. He liked the long stretches of flat walking area. Sometimes he would walk from Dr. Mishra's studio down 72nd Street to Amsterdam Avenue to the West End Superette, where he would buy produce and spices for his cooking. Sometimes he would wander through Manhattan without any fixed direction, and sometimes he would take buses to different areas of the city. On the weekends, Prabhupada would accompany Dr. Mishra to his Ananda ashram, 1 hour north of the city in Monroe, New York. Joan Suval, who used to drive them, would overhear their animated conversations in the back seat of her car. Although they spoke in Hindi, she could hear their discussions turn into loud, shouting arguments. Afterward, they would again become friends. At Ananda Ashram, Prabhupada would usually hold kirtan, while Dr. Mishra's students joining him in the chanting and even in dancing. Dr. Mishra was particularly fond of Prabhupada's chanting.
Ramamurthy Mishra. I have never seen or met any devotee who sang so much, and his kirtan was just ambrosial. If you pay attention and become relaxed, that voice has very electrical vibrations on your heart. You cannot avoid it. 99% of the students, whether they liked it or not, got up and danced enchanted, and I felt very blessed to meet such a great soul. Harvey Cohen, a visitor to Ananda Ashram. Everyone got up early and went to morning meditation. Dr. Mishra was dressed in a gold Indian style jacket, and his students were already deep into it when I entered the room. All the cushions were taken, so I picked a spot in the back of the room where I could lean against the wall to facilitate my meditation. Seated at one side was an older Indian man in saffron cloth and wrapped in a pinkish wool blanket. He seemed to be muttering to himself, and I later discovered that he was praying. It was Swami Bhaktivedanta. His forehead was painted with the white V-shaped sign, and his eyes were half shut. He seemed very serene. Harvey tried, but he couldn't do the Raja Yoga. He was new to Ananda Ashram and had only come up for a weekend retreat. During his morning meditation, he found himself more attracted to the green mist above the lake beside the window than to the circle on the wall he's supposed to be meditating on.
Ivy. I went to my room. The rain was increasing and beating against the windows. I was peaceful and I was glad to be alone. I read for a while. Suddenly, I sensed someone come in, someone standing in the doorway. Looking up, I saw it was the Swami. He was wrapped in his pink blanket like a shawl. Can I come in? He asked. Nodded yes, and he asked if he could sit in the chair in the corner. What are you reading? He smiled. Kafka's Diaries, I replied, feeling a little embarrassed. He said, and I put the book down. He asked what I was doing at the ashram and if I was interested in yoga. What kind of yoga are you studying? I don't know much about it. I answered, but I think I'd like to study Hatha Yoga. This didn't impress him. There are better things than this, he explained. There are higher, more direct forms of yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the highest. It is the science of devotion to God. As he spoke, I got the overpowering realization that he was right. He was speaking the truth. A creepy, ecstatic sensation came over me that this man was my teacher. His words were so simple, and I kept looking at him all weekend. He would sit so calm and dignified with warmth, and he asked me to visit him when we got back to the city. Dr. Mishra would give lectures carrying the impersonal interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita according to Shankara. And Prabhupada, when allowed to speak, would counter them. Once Prabhupada asked Dr. Mishra to help him in spreading Lord Chaitanya's movement, but Dr. Mishra sidestepped Prabhupada by saying that he considered Prabhupada an incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and therefore not in need of help. Prabhupada replied that since Mishra was also the name of Lord Chaitanya's father, Dr. Mishra should help spread Lord Chaitanya's movement. Srila Prabhupada offered to engage him in checking the Sanskrit to his translations of Srimad Bhagavatam, but Dr. Mishra declined, a decision he later regretted.
At Herta Lurch, a student at Ananda Ashram, my direct encounter with him was in the kitchen. He was very particular and very definite that he would only eat what he cooked himself. He would come and say, "Get me a pot." So when I brought him a pot, he'd say, "No, bigger." So I brought a bigger pot, and he'd say, "No, smaller." Then he would say, "Get me a potato." So I'd bring him a potato. He prepared food very, very quietly. He never spoke very much. He prepared potatoes and then some vegetables and then chapatis. After cooking, he would eat outside. He would usually cook enough to go around for Dr. Mishra and about 5 or 6 other people. Every day he would cook that much when he was there. I learned to make chapatis from him. He usually only stayed for the weekends and then went back to the city. I think he felt that this was where his main work was to be done. That was certainly true, but what could he do there with no money or support? He was thinking of for staying only a few weeks and then going back to India. In the meantime, he was working on his Srimad Bhagavatam manuscript, walking in Manhattan and writing letters. He was studying a new culture, calculating practically and imagining hopefully how to introduce Krishna consciousness to the Western world. He expressed his thoughts to Sumati Morarji. October 27th. So far as I have studied, the American people are very much eager to learn about the Indian way of spiritual realization, and there are so many so-called yoga ashrams in America. Unfortunately, they are not very much adored by the government, and it is learned that such yoga ashrams have exploited the innocent people, as has been the case in India also. The only hope is that they are spiritually inclined, and immense benefit can be done to them if the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam is preached here. Srila Prabhupada noted that the Americans were also giving a good reception to Indian art and music. Just to see the mode of reception, he attended the performance of a Madrasi dancer Bala Saraswati.
I went to see the dance with a friend. Although for the last 40 years I have never attended such dance ceremonies. The dancer was successful in her demonstration. The music was in Indian classical tune, mostly in Sanskrit language, and the American public appreciated that. So I was encouraged to see the favorable circumstance about my future preaching work. He said that the Bhagavatam could also be preached through music and dance, but he had no means to introduce it. The Christian missions, backed by huge resources, were preaching all over the world. So why couldn't the devotees of Krishna combine to preach the Bhagavatam all over the world? He also noted that the Christian missions had not been effective in checking the spread of communism, whereas a Bhagavatam movement could be because of its philosophical, scientific approach. He was deliberately planting a seed of inspiration in the mind of the devoted wealthy Sumati Moraji. November 28th. Prabhupada wrote to his godbrother Tirtha Maharaj, who had become president of the Gaudiya Math, to remind him that their spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, had a strong desire to open preaching centers in the Western countries. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had several times attempted to do this by sending sannyasis to England and other European countries, but Prabhupada noted without any tangible results.
I, sorry. I have come to this country with the same purpose in view. And as far as I can see, here in America, there is very good scope for preaching the cult of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada pointed out that there were certain Mayavadi groups who had buildings but were not attracting many followers. But he had talked with Swami Nikhilananda of the Ramakrishna Mission, who had given the opinion that the Americans were suitable for Bhakti Yoga. I am here and I see a good field for work, but I am alone, without men and money. To start a center here, we must have our own buildings. If the leaders of the Gaudiya Math would consider opening their own branch in New York, Srila Prabhupada would be willing to manage it. But without their own house, he reported, they could not conduct a mission in the city. Srila Prabhupada wrote that could open centers in many cities throughout the country if his god brothers would cooperate. He repeatedly made the point that although other groups did not have the genuine spiritual philosophy of India, they were buying many buildings. The Gaudiya Math, however, had nothing.
If you agree to cooperate with me as I've suggested above, then I shall extend my visa period. My present visa period ends by the end of this November. But if I receive your confirmation immediately, then I shall extend my visa period. Otherwise, I shall return to India. November 9th, 6 p.m. While Prabhupada sat alone in his fifth floor room in Dr. Mishra's yoga studio, the lights suddenly went out. This was his experience of the first moments of the New York City blackout of 1965. In India, power failure occurred commonly, so Prabhupada, while surprised to find the same thing in America, remained undisturbed. He began chanting the Hare Krishna mantra on his beads. Meanwhile, outside his room, the entire New York metropolitan area had been plunged into darkness. The massive power failure had suddenly left the entire city without electricity, trapping 800,000 people in the subways and affecting more than 30 million people in the 9 states and 3 Canadian provinces. 2 hours later, a man from Dr. Mishra's apartment arrived at the door with candles and some fruit. He found Prabhupada in a pleasant mood, sitting there in the darkness chanting Hare Krishna. The man informed him of the serious nature of such a blackout in New York City. Prabhupada thanked him and returned again to his chanting. The blackout lasted until 7 the next morning.
Srila Prabhupada received a reply to his letter of November 8th to Tirtha Maharaj in Calcutta. Prabhupada had explained his hopes and plans for staying in America, but he had stressed that his god brothers would have to give him their vote of confidence as well as some tangible support. His god brothers had not been working cooperatively. Each leader was interested more in maintaining his own building than working with the others to spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya around the world. So how would it be possible for them to share Srila Prabhupada's vision of establishing a branch in New York City? They would see it as his separate attempt. Yet Despite the unlikely odds, he appealed to their missionary spirit and reminded them of the desires of their spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Their Guru Maharaj wanted Krishna consciousness to be spread in the West, but when Prabhupada finally got Tirtha Maharaj's reply, he found it unfavorable. His godbrother did not argue against his attempting something in New York, but he politely said that Gaudiya Math funds could not be used for such a proposal. Prabhupada replied, "It is not very encouraging, still I am not a man to be disappointed." In fact, he found a little hope in Tirtha Maharaj's reply, so he described to his godbrother the property he had recently found for sale at 143 West 72nd Street. The building, only 18.5 feet wide and 100 feet deep, consisted of the first floor store, a basement, and a mezzanine. Prabhupada presented Tirtha Maharaj the price $100,000 with a $20,000 cash down payment, and remarked that this building was twice the size of the research institute in Calcutta. Prabhupada conceived of the basement as a kitchen and dining area, the first floor as a lecture hall, and the mezzanine as personal apartments, with a separate area for the deity of Lord Krishna. Appropriately, Prabhupada had described himself as a man not to be disappointed. He was convinced that if there were a center where people could come here from a pure devotee, the genuine God-conscious culture of India could begin in America. Yet, because he had made his plans dependent on obtaining an expensive building in Manhattan, his goal seemed unreachable. Still, he was persistently writing to prominent devotees in India, though they were not interested in his plans.
Thank you, everyone, for reading. Reading Lilamrita is always so sweet. And before we go into kind of general reflections, I thought it'd be fun to do a pop quiz. I was just like reading along and noting down little points that I liked. So you can either raise your hand or put your answer in the chat if you know what it is, and maybe we'll do a little competition. So, okay, I'll start with what did Prabhupada give Dr. Mishra that, quote, saved his life? And then the next question is how, and you can raise your hand to explain how exactly it saved his life. Mayuri, yeah.
Srila Prabhupada gave Dr. Mishra prasadam.
Yes. Do you know what prasadam he gave Dr. Mishra?
Chapatis and potatoes.
I think that was also mentioned in the beginning. There's a quote about him saying that the bread saved my life. So
Oh,
that's true. But do you want to expand on why prasadam is so special that it has the ability to even save someone's life? That seems like a pretty extreme statement, right?
I think that prasadam has so much potency because it was touched by Krishna's lips. And even though it's already like vegetarian and like very pure, but it's more sanctified because it's like it was associated with Krishna.
Yeah.
And just normal food can save somebody from starving, but
Mm,
like prasadam can save someone from lack of spirituality. So, and I think that Dr. Mishra, he was like really rich.
mm,
Like instead of like being a sannyasi wearing like dhoti and kurta, he
mhm,
had like vests and Nehru stuff. But even though he was rich and he could definitely afford food, the reason Prasadam saved his life was because it saved him with its spirituality because he was preaching like impersonalism, but
mhm.
Prasadam still saved his life with the spirituality.
Wow, that was such a conclusive answer. You covered everything. Thank you, Mayuri. Also, Tarini Radha had said, also Prabhupada had made the prasadam in love and pure devotion. Yeah, definitely. The consciousness of the person definitely makes a difference. And I also liked your point about starvation, how normal food can save someone from starvation, but then there's also this idea of spiritual starvation. Prabhupada talks about how there's material suicide and spiritual suicide. And material suicide loses the physical body of a person, but in spiritual suicide, you lose the actual identity of the soul. So Prashadam saved him in the way that uh, spiritual starvation was not there. So I liked your point about that, Mary. Okay, next question. What did Prabhupada walk 7 blocks to do every day? Yes. Rian, were you also gonna say the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah? Wow. Rian, do you want to share what you learned about Prabhupada's mood when he was cooking? A hint is that he was very particular. Do you know what he was very particular about in this section?
No, not really.
Okay, does anybody know? Okay, Tarini Radha, do you want to go?
Prabhupada had said, first of all, he was very particular that only he would make his own food and he would only eat food made by himself. And
Yeah.
also, I remember he was saying like, no, I need a bigger pot, and then someone got a larger pot. He's like, no, it needs to be smaller. So he's like very also particular about small details like that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Rian and Tarini. Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about the small and big pot difference. And so I was thinking also from a normal material lens, this may seem like fanaticism, if that's how you say that word, but very particular and may not seem very spiritual. If someone looks at that behavior and starts saying, oh, this is so particular, this doesn't even make sense. How is this Krishna consciousness if you have so many rules, you know? How would you justify that? How would you think through that? And would you say anything to that person? I was just thinking. Yeah, Ritvik, ready to go.
So to justify that, like we have so many specific rules. Like in Christianity, you can't just go after doing sins and after like murdering someone, you can't just go in Christianity and say, "Can I get salvation now?" You can't bribe anyone. So like that in Hinduism and Vaishnavism, we have so many things to justify ourselves. Like if we're offering prasadam, we're putting our heart and soul to make sure God eats our food before we can eat it, so it's blessed and touched. In similarity in Christianity, I'm pretty sure they also offer food, and I know they have like holy water, and they have their baptism. I'm pretty sure we have many things like that. Like today, Maharaj in the temple was giving this baby kheer for their first ever grain, and then they chose Bhagavad Gita over all the money and wealth and everything.
Wow. Thank you, Ritvik. All right, we have 3 more folks ready to expand. Right, Chaitanya Nitai now. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. I was also thinking that it's important to be particular about these things, at least from Prabhupada's standpoint, because he was very new to the American culture. So it was just better for him to be able to use what he was used to, but also to be so particular about the size of the pot and everything like that might be also from the standpoint of not wanting to be tempted to cook too much if he was given too much of a large pot, but also he needs enough to, sustain himself for each meal. So, if it's too small, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
So it's very intelligent to think of it in this way, and I'm sure Prabhupada already had put that thought into it because he was living on his own uh, for many years before that already. He had left home and was living in Radha Damodar Temple in Vrindavan, and every such places he already had to depend on his own or whatever was available, but his own intelligence to be sure of if he's using the things available in the right way.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Arav?
Hare Krishna. I was just remembering a story of a old old devotee, and I'm not sure like which shastra this is from. He's an old devotee of Lord Chaitanya living in Vrindavan with a few disciples. And what happened was one day he had found himself doing something that he's not supposed to do. He was so confused and he felt so hurt. He's like, I would never do that. In my whole entire life, I've never done anything like this. Why is it happening now? What's going on?
Mm,
And then after a while of realization, he was thinking where like what went wrong? What in my consciousness went wrong? Like what could have gone wrong?
yeah.
And then he was realizing one day somebody had got the food from someone that they didn't know, and that food ultimately hit his consciousness. And then so he would be cooking and his disciples would be cooking.
Mm,
So that's one probably Srila Prabhupada was very concerned about his consciousness because we don't know how what anybody's been up to that day. If somebody might have just had like a bad day, but like if they're a good person and they had a bad day, it could still go a little bit in the food.
yeah.
So it's so he was very smart about that, very particular. If he was gonna spread the name, if he was gonna spread the name, he had to make these kind of choices.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I like that too. I was thinking that he didn't sacrifice on the principles of prasadam too, and who makes it. And I was also thinking like if he made the prasadam and he's giving it to other disciples or devotees, and they get benefited because it's cooked by a pure devotee. So definitely. Yeah, if anyone knows where the story is from, that'll be interesting to read about. So please send references our way. Yeah, Navya?
I think one reason he was so particular about how the size of the pots and exactly how everything should be was
Mm-hmm.
because he was going to offer it to Krishna, and he wanted to make sure that everything was perfect for Krishna. Because if it was just for himself, I don't think he would have cared as much. But since he knew he was going to give it to Krishna and Krishna should only have the best, he
Mm.
was like trying extra hard.
Yeah, always better service. Thank you. Mayuri, last one.
So I'm just thinking about like the original question, like
Mhm.
what would you say to someone who's like, why do you have so many rules? And if
Yes.
somebody came up to me and was like that, because I actually have a lot of people who are just like, why do you have like a whole list of things you can't eat? And it's like, and if somebody's just like today I had to go to this competition and they were serving lunch and it was like there was a vegetarian version of it, but I couldn't have it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm vegetarian. And they're just like, why can't you have it? I was just like, I have to get into this whole thing. But if somebody came up to me and was like, why do you have so many rules? And I say sometimes these rules are actually a good thing because let's start like if you have the four regulative principles, then
Mm,
meat eating, we already know that being vegetarian has like many health benefits. And it's always good not like to save a life and choose a better option
mm,
than to like go and slaughter an animal just to satisfy your tongue. If somebody asked me why you're vegetarian, I would say that sometimes it's best to be compassionate on innocent animals. And then somebody was like, "What about gambling?" I don't think I would do gambling, and nobody would ask me that until I'm like 18. But somebody was just like, "What about gambling?" And I'd be like, "Well, so many people lose like so many like their property and sometimes their whole lives to gamblers and cheats, and like even loan sharks." Like they lose their lives to them. And
yeah.
alcohol, like drinking, that
Mhm.
can like people like get many diseases and can end up dead with that. But again, I don't think anybody would come up to me and be like, "Why can't you drink alcohol?" And then like the last one, I would just say that it's best not to get into that because you just end up with a broken heart or whatever. But it best not to get into that.
I
You
like that.
better safe than sorry if you're getting in.
I feel like we could use the answer for everything, Mary. Better not get into that. Thank you so much. Yeah, Akshita, and then we'll take Sia. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. I actually heard a story yesterday about His Holiness Namal Krishna Swami Maharaj that actually relates to why Prabhupada was very particular about cooking for Krishna. No, the story was like Tamal Krishna Maharaj was also like very particular about like
Mm,
how the devotees, I think this was in Dallas, I don't know, but he was very particular about how the devotees made food for Kalachandji. And So he would always critique the food that was prepared for him after the prasadam was taken out. But then one time Maharaj was leaving the temple and he had to travel somewhere else. So the devotees they didn't realize it was Ekadashi. So all the cooks they made him nice chapati, rice, well, taking into consideration of Maharaj's critiques. Like they forgot it was Ekadashi. I don't know how, but they forgot it was Ekadashi. So they made him chapati, rice, and everything. And then they brought it to Maharaj. And then when Maharaj saw it, he's like, but today's Ekadashi. And then they were all very morose and they felt very sorry. But then Mar said, it's okay, no problem. I will in the flight or something, or I'll just get a fruit juice. I should be able to manage with that. And then all the devotees were like perplexed, kind of, because they were wondering, um, Maharaj, you were, kind of very particular about what we, cooked for in the temple kitchen, but then now you're pretty lenient as towards like what we should eat on Ekadashi. Why is that? And then Maharaj responded by saying, well, you guys are preparing it for Kala Chanji, so it should be perfect. You should try to present the best you can to Kala Chanji because this is for Kala Chanji, so we should make sure we try to make as best as possible. So I thought this was very relatable to this story because Prabhupada is also very particular as to how the prasadam was made. So I just thought of that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Akshita. Manya just got frozen, she said, so I'll fill in. But yeah, that's a really nice point, and it really attests to how much Prabhupada also not only in the sense of prasadam, but everything when it had to do with deity service. There's so many uh, accounts of how strict he was in terms of maintaining a certain standard when it came to just having deity service going on in the temples that he established. So it's really shows how much he was not only trying to spread this Krishna conscious movement, but also still maintain that standard and not, sacrificing quality for, I guess, quantity over just because they wanted to spread everywhere in the West. But Sia, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. So I just wanted to go back on what Mayuri said in the original question about how like how do you respond if someone says a bunch of rules? And like I don't know where I heard this from, but like rules are like meant for like the benefit of society and like without rules we would have chaos. Like this is mentioned many times. So yeah, so if we don't have any like rules, then like these rules also the rules that we have are not there to restrict us, but they're there to help us grow in our sadhana and help us to stay detached from, material desires and come closer. So it's it might feel hard, but like once you taste the higher taste of like the freedom from these things and like giving up onion garlic, but then also tasting prashadam and then your mind getting cleansed from that. It's just it feels more freeing and it's just you feel better after that. I feel like that's also something you can respond with.
I love that, Sia. Thank you. Yeah, without rules, we would have chaos. So that would be a nice way to respond because rules is something we all collectively follow, whether it's in school or just government and society. All right, well, one of my last questions was the pop quiz was what kind of yoga did Harvey say he wanted to study? Does anybody remember? All right, Arav has told us Hatha Yoga and Mayuri and Tharani you're probably already going to say that because you guys are top performers of this class right now. Does anybody so Prabhupada said how Bhakti Yoga is the highest and it's like the top ring of the yoga ladder. Yeah, thank you, Rian. Yes, Hatha Yoga. As in similar question, can anybody give a verse or expand the discussion on someone wanting to study Hatha Yoga, but then explaining the path of Bhakti Yoga to them? And if I say, if I follow Hatha Yoga, can I achieve the same result? What is the answer to that question? And um, is one better than the other? That's a lot. But maybe let's start with like, how would you respond to someone wanting to study Hatha Yoga and then kind of introducing Bhakti Yoga after that? All right, Keisha, was your hand up? Yeah.
So I just have a question. Is your question like that someone's trying to practice Hatha Yoga, but they're introduced to Krishna consciousness. They're asking, like, if I do Hatha Yoga, will I get the same result? Is that the question?
That is one of the questions, yes.
Okay. So, yeah, like Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says that if you do all the other types of yogas, they're like you have to it'll be like slower and also harder because bhakti yoga is more like direct for Krishna, and like doing hatha yoga, I think hatha yoga is more focused on the Brahman aspect of Krishna, and then like you're just trying to think about Krishna in your heart, like Brahman and Paramatma. You're just like trying to like bhakti yoga is more direct and complete. Yeah.
Can someone find a verse that says that? A little challenge for you all. It's open notes. If you have it with you, you can say it. All right, Advaita Chanda, ready to go.
In terms of bhakti is perfect and complete. Uh, some verses popped in my head, but initially to the answer to the question, I immediately was just thinking about Yogi Namapi Sarvesham Madgate Nattanatmana Shraddhavan Bhajate Yomam Samayukta Tamamata. That Krishna himself, he says that if you want authority on how to please Krishna, who is the best person to ask than the person you're pleasing? And he is saying, after describing Hatha Yoga and everything, in the conclusion of that chapter, at the end of that chapter, he is describing what? Yoginam api sarvesham madgate antaratmana. He who keeps me as his goal, exclusively madgate antaratmana, shraddhavan bhajate. With Shraddha, he worships bhajate yomam samayuktatamamata. So he ends off on Bhakti Yoga. And if we see Krishna's conclusion, the most confidential knowledge in Gita, it's Bhakti Yoga. And we see that as a running trend through the Bhagavad Gita. At the end, just surrender to Krishna and full dedication to his words. That is the end. So it's through all those cases, Bhakti Yoga stands out as supreme. And in terms of Bhakti Yoga being complete, I'm not remembering the translation of this verse, if it's correct, but the verse that popped into my head is from Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita Hrit Saroja. I think that verse has something to say about the sweetness of Bhakti, the top one. I'm not remembering the rest of the verse or the exact translation.
We'll have our research department look into it. All right, we've got 6.47. Is that the right one you were thinking about, that Chandra? I'm on my phone, so sorry, I'm struggling to open these links.
From Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita Hrit Saroja. I'll try to search as well.
All right, until then, Arya.
I don't have a verse, but I had to add like the difference between Hatha Yoga and Bhakti Yoga.
Okay.
So Hatha Yoga, it like helps your body, and Bhakti Yoga, it helps your soul connect to higher energy.
Wow, thank you. How did you do that research? Did you already know about that? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did someone tell you? Or you just heard it somewhere?
Yeah, I heard it somewhere.
Okay, wow. You have good sources. Arav.
Hare Krishna. So we can take the root of the word yoga. So yoga means to connect with Krishna. So none of these yogas are actually bad in a sense, but the thing is what we're looking for is the speed and like really connecting with Krishna. So there's many types of yoga mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita itself, like 6 chapters about dhyana yoga, and then third, fifth chapter karma yoga. All these are ways to connect with Krishna. And Krishna specifically says, become my devotee, become my bhakta. This is because he wants to be, the jiva is constitutionally like from the Lord. It's seeking happiness. And the happiness we get is from serving Lord Krishna in our respective positions. So that's why Krishna says, Manmana bhava mad bhakta.
Wow. Thank you for breaking it down. Yeah. yoga itself is like a form of connection. So they do provide some sort of connection. I was also thinking about how Prabhupada says that none of the respective practices can succeed if there isn't a little bit of bhakti added to it. So even for those things to succeed, we need bhakti. So I was thinking that even for that, if you can only be successful for bhakti, imagine if you only had bhakti, how profound that practice might be. And you all are the most profound because you're here practicing bhakti yoga. So we're the luckiest of the crew. And yeah, just see that time has hit 4:30. Would love to be here with all of you longer, but this was such a nice session and so fulfilling to read Prabhupada Lilamrita, and little actions of Prabhupada have so much to say and provide in our lives. And I was thinking we could end with a prayer. So y'all just take 5 seconds. Dear Shri Radha Madan Mohan Srila Prabhupada, if you so desire, please provide us spiritual strength and integrity to continue the process of Bhakti Yoga and inspire many others in our community. Thank you for considering our request. If you agree with this prayer, please say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Panchakalpatarubhasya Kripasindhubheva Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Nantakoti Vaishnavrind ki jai. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Haribol.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.